Hello children, welcome to our English lesson. I hope you are doing well and ready for the lesson as well. Before starting the lesson, please keep your workbook and O-level past papers with you. Today you are going to learn how to read and respond to simple poems. Before that, I will show you a picture. What can you see in this picture? Yes, indeed. You can see a dragon and a little girl. Now I have given you a clue for the poem and you can guess the story behind the poem. Let's look at the poem. Observe the poem well. Can you tell me the title of the poem? Of course, yes. The title is I Met a Dragon Face to Face. Then what about the poet? Who is the poet? Yes, the poet is Jack Prelutsky. As you know, here we can find the poet at the beginning of the poem. But sometimes we can find the poet in some poems at the end of the poem. So, now I think you can recognize the poet and the title of a poem by looking at a poem. Now, let's find out the things we should know about a poem. The first one is title. We already talked about this thing, the topic, heading of a poem. Poet, a person who writes poems. Theme, underlying message writer wants to convey. In a poem, there can be several themes. Also, the title itself can be a theme. Actually, theme is an answer for the question, what is the poem actually about? The next thing is speaker, the poet or a character that the poet created. Line, a single line of a poem from left to right. Stanza, a series of lines grouped together and separated by a space. Each stanza has its unique purpose and a concept. Finally, we are talking about rhyming words. Two or more words that have the same ending sound. Let's look at some examples. These are the examples. Tree, free. Funny, honey. When we talk about these two examples, tree, free, you can see the pronunciation is different, the spelling is different, but the ending sound is similar in both words. So we call them rhyming words. Right, now let's move on to a poem. Shall we read it together? I Met a Dragon Face to Face by Jack Prelutsky. I met a dragon face to face, the year when I was 10. I took a trip to outer space. I braved a pirate's den. I wrestled with a wicked troll and fought a great white shark. I trailed a rabbit down a hole. I hunted for a snark. I stored aboard a submarine. I opened magic doors. I traveled in a time machine and searched for dinosaurs. I climbed atop a giant's head. I found a pot of gold. I did all this in books I read when I was 10 years old. This is a poem full of imaginations. Isn't it interesting? Yes. Okay. Now I think you are familiar with the poem. Can you find the speaker of this poem? Now you know who is the speaker. Speaker is the voice behind the poem. The speaker can be a human, animal, or an inanimate character. Right, now take your time and see whether you can find the speaker in this poem. I think time is enough for you now. Here I have circled the speaker of the poem. As you see, I is the speaker. Here I refers to the poet. He describes all his imaginations throughout the poem. Okay children, lines. Do you know what line is? I think you know. Can you find how many lines are there in the poem? Yes. Excellent. There are 16 lines. Here I have put number 1 to 16. So you can see there are 16 lines. Okay, now we have talked about lines and the speaker. As you all know, when a series of lines group together, it forms stanzas. Now my dear children, look at the poem again and tell me how many stanzas are there in the poem. Of course, yes, there are 2 stanzas. Let's see. 1, 2. There are 2 stanzas. Now we are going to talk about rhyming words. Can you remember what rhyming words are? Yes, rhyming words ends with the same sound. Okay, my dear children, now read the poem again and find the rhyming words. It's your time. Okay children, these are the rhyming words in the poem. Let's read them together. Face, space. 10, den. Shark, snark. Submarine, machine. Head, red. Gold, old. I think now you are familiar with the rhyming words as well. Okay, now let's read a new poem. The Missing Cookie. The cookie in the cookie jar somehow just walked away. I wondered who inside our house helped Cookie get away. My sister shook her head. Not me. My mom said, certainly not. My dad said, I can't eat those things. They take my white teeth rot. We all looked down at our dog Max, whose eyes told us the truth. Max somehow has found a way to feed his cookie tooth. Right, this is an interesting poem. Right, here I have given you some questions to answer from the previous poem. Let's read the questions first. Number 1. What is the title of the poem? Number 2. How many stanzas are there in the poem? Number 3. How many lines are there in the poem? Number 4. Who is the speaker? Number 5. What are the rhyming words in this poem? As you are familiar with these words, I think you can easily find the answers. I will give you some time to note down these questions. Okay, now my dear children, you can answer the questions by looking at the poem. Take your time. Okay children, let's look at your answers. I hope you have answered all the questions correctly. Right. The first question, what is the title of the poem? The answer is The Missing Cookie. How many stanzas are there in the poem? There are 3 stanzas. How many lines are there in the poem? 12 lines. Number 4, who is the speaker? Yes, the speaker is the poet. Last one, what are the rhyming words in this poem? Not and rot. Okay, now we have finished this activity. Now we'll move on to a new poem. See whether you can identify the title. Yes, the sea, a lovely place we all like to visit. Right, let's read the poem. Splashing, dashing, restless sea, never still you seem to be, sometimes angry, sometimes sad, sometimes you laugh as though you are glad. Little children love you well, love all the wondrous tales you tell, love to watch you come and go in the tides that ebb and flow. Though so strong and great you are, stretching deep and wide and far, tiny vessels safe and keep, rocking them gently as to sleep. Wildly and rough though you may be, when you are angry, mighty sea, when the storm has gone, we find you are still our playmate kind. Okay, this is a poem about the sea. Let's move on to some new words from the poem. Right. Here, the first one is splashing, falling or hitting on something. Have you seen water splashing? Okay, the second one, still, not moving or making a sound. Third one, restless, unable to stay calm. Ebb, sea flows away from the land. What is the meaning of the word rocking? Rocking, cause something to move forward and backward. Vessels, large boats or ships. What is the meaning of the word mighty? Very powerful. The last one, wondrous, extremely and surprisingly good. Okay, these are the new words we can find in the poem. Okay, dear children, I have given you some questions. Let's read them together. First one, write the line which says that the sea always keeps on moving. Second one, what is the adjective that is not used in the poem to describe the sea? A. Angry, B. Glad, C. Restless, D. Still. Number 3, find a word similar to the word small. These are the rest of the questions. Are these statements true or false? If true, write T, and false, write F in the blanks. A. It always keeps tiny vessels safe. B. The writer is fascinated by the sea. Last one, the words ebb and flow refers to A. the sound of the sea, B, the waves of the sea, C, the vessels of the sea. Okay children, now it's time to answer these questions. I will give you few more minutes to see whether you can answer these questions easily. Take your time. Okay, I think you have completed the activity now. Let's check your answers. Question number 1. Write the line which says that the sea always keeps on moving. Yes, in the first stanza you can find the answer. The answer is never still you seem to be. Question number 2. What is the adjective that is not used in the poem to describe the sea? In the poem, you can find the words angry, glad, restless. But the word still is not there. They have used never still. So, the answer should be D, still. Third one, find a word similar to the word small. Obviously, the answer is tiny. Next question, are these statements true or false? If true, write T, and if false, write F. A, it always keeps tiny vessels safe. Always, as the poet says, there are storms also. So, because of the word always, the statement is false. So, we have to write the letter F. B, the writer is fascinated by the sea. Of course, he describes the beauty of the sea. So, the answer is true. So, we have to write the letter T. Number 5, the words ebb and flow refers to. As you know the meaning of the word ebb, you know the answer now. The answer should be B, the waves of the sea. So, answer is B. Okay children, we have completed this activity, and now I think you may know that answering these questions are really easy. So, don't be afraid if you get a poem for your O-levels. It's really easy. If you find out the keywords, you can easily find the answers from the poem. Okay, my dear children, I think you are very familiar with this poem as it is taken from a O-level paper. Here, the poem I have taken is from 2013 O-level paper, question number 13. Let's read it together. For 10 long years, I walked along the shady school lane, up to the school and back home again. The tamarind trees on school lane gave me shade all the way. Bending down to pick the fruits, sometimes sour, sometimes sweet. It was summer when we went away. Many goodbyes we had to say. I stopped down on school lane after 10 years yesterday. My heart missed a beat when I stopped to gaze. Alas, no more trees. The pillars for telephone wires have taken their place. Let's look at the questions now. Okay, before moving to the questions, I need to introduce some new words to you. Sour. What is the meaning of the word sour? A sharp taste, gaze, looking at something for a long time. Alas, an expression of sadness. Finally, the word pillars. A column supports a building. Okay, now we can move on to the questions. Here, the first question is, where did the poet go along the school lane? Second one, which two words tell us that the poet had eaten tamarind? 3. How many years did the poet take to come back? Number 4. Write the line which says, the poet is still very fond of the school lane. Number 5. Underline the correct answer. What did the poet feel when he saw the pillars? A. Sad. B. Angry. C. Indifferent. D. Surprised. Okay children, now take your time and try to answer these questions from the poem. If it is done, we can move on to the answers now. Let's check your answers. Where did the poet go along the school lane? The answer is to school. It is better if you can write to school and back home. Number 2, which two words tell us that the poet had eaten tamarind? Did you find the words? Yes, the words are sour and sweet. Number 3, how many years did the poet take to come back? If you read the latter part of the poem, you can easily find the answer. Yes, the answer is 10 years. Number 4, write the line which says, the poet is still very fond of the school lane. The answer is on this beloved lane. Last question. Number 5, underline the correct answer. What did the poet feel when he saw the pillars? Yes, you can remember the word alas, expression of sadness. So, obviously, the answer should be sad. A. Now, we are going to move to another poem, that is the last poem of today's lesson. Now, take out your workbooks and turn to page 90, activity 4. Okay, this is the poem by Rodney Bennett. Shall we read it together? Yes. The Little Old Lady by Rodney Bennett. That little grey-haired lady is as old can be. Yet once she was a little girl like me. She liked to skip instead of walk. She wore her hair in curls. She went to school at 9 and played with other little girls. I wonder if in years and years some little girl at play who's very like what I am now will stop to look my way and think that grey-haired lady is as old can be. Yet once she was a little girl like me. So, here you can find repetition. It means the lines repeat again and again. See the questions, right? First one, who is described in the first stanza? Second one, who is the narrator of this poem? Third one, describe the old lady's childhood as described by the little girl. Fourth one, write the line which implies that the lady is very old. Number 5, seeing the old lady makes the little girl think about something. What is it? Here, to answer this question, you have to think further. Right. Sixth, who is referred to as she? Line 3. Me, line 4. Number 7, what are the images that come to your mind when you read the poem? Okay, children, now it's time to write the answers. Take your time and try to find the answers from the poem. Okay, these are the answers for first 4 questions. Check whether you have written the correct answers for these questions. Rhyming words. Now it is very easy for you to find rhyming words. The last one, stanzas. It's really simple. You can find the stanzas. Right. Now we have come to the end of our lesson. Before winding up the lesson, I need to give you some tips to do the comprehension questions based on a poem. Here are some tips. If you are given a question to answer based on a poem, first read the poem reasonably fast to get a general idea. Then read again at a slow pace for more details. Later, you can study the questions thoroughly and focus on the relevant sections of the poem. This is very important. You have to use the keywords from the text, then it will be easy for you to find the answers from the poem. Okay children, this is the end of our lesson. Hope you have enjoyed the lesson. Stay safe. Goodbye.